firstly, just a little thing. Could you believe if you're sitting here knowing that your old mate Dustin was going to run out after his 36th birthday for 333 games?
Is that 333 this week, is it? Yeah, it's amazing, really. I think we've spoken about how good a player Dustin is and how good a player he has been for the length of his career, and he seems to be just getting better. So,
is his durability surprising?
He's an amazing character, Dustin, because he's never been the hardest trainer. He's always been a good trainer, but he hasn't been one of those guys who absolutely flogs himself on the track in the manner that some players do, and I think that's helped him. And also his natural athletic ability is quite incredible. His ability to keep his speed and flexibility and agility, as long as that stays, he can play forever, really. And I think some people's bodies are better than others, and he's just got one of those terrific bodies that just keeps going and going. So it's very impressive the way he's done it since a 17-year-old back in '93, I think he started.
You'd hate to be the bloke that's got to tell him to wrap it up eventually one day, wouldn't you?
Oh, I think, well, when he does wrap it up, he'll decide when he wraps it up. Yeah, he's a very pragmatic and honest character with himself, and he knows when he's not playing well when he's playing well. But at the moment, I don't think it's in his thought process or mine, because he's playing so well.
So he's definitely playing this week?
That's not definitely, no. I mean, he's got a sore knee, which we expect to come up, expect to train well today and come up, but there's always a tiny bit of doubt with the knee, and but I'd say he's 90% sure to play, but not absolutely definite.
So you'll name him and see?
Yeah, we'll see how he trains today, and more than likely we'll name him and see, but I'd be very surprised if he doesn't, but I'm not going to say he'll definitely play.
Any concern that last week's game is not an ideal preparation going into a game against a really informed team this week?
If the second quarter had been the last quarter, I would have been a little bit upset and a bit worried, but we spoke at three-quarter time about actually preparing for the West Coast game and playing the way we wanted to play in the West Coast game. So the last quarter of the Gold Coast game was actually in preparation and doing the things we wanted to do against West Coast. So it was nice to be in a situation where we could do that, but you know, we're mindful that you can, when you're playing ahead of the ball, when you're kicking goals, sometimes with the ease the guys are doing, that you get away from the things that win you important games, which this one is. So we're pretty mindful, but time will tell whether we've been able to get our heads back into the style of football or beat West Coast or not.
What the crowd's done in the past, you spent a bit of extra time worrying about him, or do you just keep going?
No, I mean, I remember being at that game, and the crowd was incredible, but we've spent time on the whole West Coast team, and he's a very important part of them kicking goals. But they've got some other forwards that are playing very well as well. So their forward line is very potent at the moment, and you know, they've got a lot of options that can kick goals for them.
Have you gone back and studied video of that performance by him this week, Jack?
No. We won't spend any time on what happened a year ago. We'll spend time on what they're doing the last 4 or 5 weeks and how they've prepared and how they've built their side up the last 4 or 5 weeks.
So in that, with having an extra couple of days to look at what they did last week against Melbourne, has that been a bonus for you to have a good extra look at how they're going right now?
I'm not sure that a couple of days have been, because the first few days after their game were spent still preparing for the Suns game. So I think the thing with West Coast is they're playing some really good football, and they're in a similar situation to us. They had a poor year last year. They're trying to rebuild their reputation as a football club and a football team, and the players who are playing for both teams are trying to build their names and forge their names in their careers. And I think that's a really exciting part of it this week. You've got two clubs trying to make their way in the AFL and come from 14th and 16th. If you've nothing to do on Mother's Day, I'll get down to Etihad Stadium. This will be a really good game of football.
So there's some suggestion that they're playing their press in a similar fashion to Collingwood. When we drill down on this week, do you agree?
There's some similarities between the way West Coast are playing and the Collingwood style. I wouldn't compare any team in the competition the way Collingwood's playing, because they're playing it so well. But West Coast is playing a really good defensive style, which makes it very hard to kick goals against them. And that's something that we have to negate this week.
David Myers a chance to come in, handle one of their tour guys?
Dave's probably on the fringe. He's really only played a VFL practice match since he broke his thumb, I think, since he had a crack in his hand. 5 weeks ago now. So Dave's a really important player for us, but I'd like to see him play a little bit more VFL football before he comes back in. But if Fletch doesn't come up, then Dave's definitely a chance to get a game.
You spoke about how you don't sort of get respect in this competition when you win one week and lose the next. How important is it to get on some sort of run there?
Yeah, very important. Just to win this week and win 2 in a row is really important for us. You don't go anywhere in the AFL winning one week, losing the next. So we need to string wins together, and it happens to be West Coast this week that we come up against, and we need to beat them.
Just to carry on what you're saying before, do you say that it's sort of a year in a similar place to West Coast coming through? So this is a chance for your players to show sort of where they're at against another team of similar ilk at the moment?
Sure, it's showing where you're at, but just there's 2 teams who are trying to build their years and build their clubs back from disappointing years last year over the last couple of years. So there's a similar situation. Our players want to be the ones that build their year and don't want to be at the expense of West Coast.
James, now that we're 6 rounds in, 6, 7 rounds in, have the KPIs for you changed? I mean, it was all about improving and whatever pre-season, but have things changed now that you're going all right 6 rounds in?
No, we're still trying to improve. Yeah, still trying to improve and get better. And I think if you improve and get better, as I've spoken about, then you might have some end of year, I suppose, action. But the year is still so young that things can go, a lot of ways if you don't prepare properly and improve and keep getting better.
2 weeks into playing the 3 big guys, how have you seen it so far? Is it something you can see working long term?
It's interesting, a lot of analysis, a lot of questions about playing 3 taller players, but I don't consider them all ruckmen at all different times either. They're, David Hill and Paddy Ryder can play key forward, Paddy Ryder can play key back, and Tom Bell-Chambers can also play a key forward role. So then I don't consider them 3 ruckmen. Any of those 3 can play in the ruck at certain times, but I wouldn't get too caught up on whether we're playing 3 ruckmen, because when you play them like that, they're not seen as ruckmen to us.
James, Brad Scott made comments last week calling for all players and coaches' salaries to be made public, as in like a public listed company would do. Do you have any thoughts on that? Do you reckon that could be a good idea, or any downside to that at all, maybe?
Just not sure what purpose it serves to make everyone's salaries public, but if everyone in the AFL wants to make their salaries public, I don't have a problem with it, but I'm just not sure what the benefit of it is.
James, it's a curious reality that all 4 teams that have played Gold Coast so far have lost the following week too. Are you aware of that?
No, I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't think it matters too much. Yeah, I think that is what it is, and we'll perform as well as we can on the weekend, whether we play Gold Coast or not the week before.
Is this issue that's rearing its head about players diving on the ball, using their heads to win cheap free kicks, where does it sit with you, James?
I think the players know that if they commit themselves to the ball, that the umpires will look after them. And there may be a couple of examples where players trying to stage free kicks, putting their head over the ball or diving their head into someone's legs. But the good thing about the game is if you commit yourself to the ball, you're more than likely, and you hit high, you'll get a free kick. And I think that's a good thing for the game. And if a couple get through, then obviously that's not great, but I prefer they get looked after. But you don't want players deliberately throwing their heads into people's knees just to get a free kick. And, but I don't think there's too many examples of that. It's a couple, but not too many.
Doesn't require a real change or anything.
There's a lot of rule changes. Yeah, there's a lot of rule changes.